Hello student, welcome back to the science class once again. Thank you all for liking my previous videos and an additional thank you for staying home. So in the previous video, what did we discuss? We discussed about solution and its properties, right? Today we are going to discuss about another kind of mixture. Okay, so today we are going to discuss about suspension. Okay, so what is suspension? A suspension is a heterogeneous mixture in which the solid particles do not dissolve but remain suspended throughout the bulk of the medium. So what is the thing to remember here? A suspension is a heterogeneous mixture. First of all, if you want to understand about suspension, be clear of the fact that a suspension is a heterogeneous mixture. So what is the meaning of heterogeneous mixture? We have already discussed about heterogeneous mixture. What is a heterogeneous mixture? The mixture in which the components do not dissolve, means the mixture which has physically distinct components. It is opposite of homogeneous mixture. So a suspension is also a heterogeneous mixture in which the solid particles which you are dissolving in a solvent, they are not dissolving but they are remaining suspended throughout the bulk of the medium. So for some of you who are not getting the clear meaning of suspension, let us understand this with the help of an example. An example of suspension is mixing sand with water. What will happen if you mix sand to water? Will it dissolve completely? Will the sand dissolve completely in water? Definitely no. What will happen? Once you dissolve it, sand is not at all going to dissolve in water. But what will happen to it? It will remain suspended in that water only. Clear? So that is an example of suspension only. Since it is not dissolving, so what is it? It is a heterogeneous mixture. Okay? So let us go to the definition once again. The suspension is a heterogeneous mixture in which the solid particles do not dissolve but remain suspended throughout the bulk of the medium. I hope you have understood it. Again I am repeating, the suspension is a heterogeneous mixture in which the solid particles do not dissolve in the solvent but remains suspended, okay, in the bulk of the medium. Clear? What? So now let us understand the properties of suspension. Okay, so what is an example of suspension? Sand with water, chalk powder with water. Okay, now in these two examples, the solid particles are not at all dissolving in the solvent. Once it dissolves, then it no longer remains a suspension. Clear? So let us see the properties of suspension. So what have we come to know about suspension now? The suspension is a heterogeneous mixture. So that will be its first property. So let us see. It is a heterogeneous mixture. I hope you have understood it. A suspension is a heterogeneous mixture. Again and again I am saying, if the solid particles will dissolve in a solvent, then you cannot categorize it as a suspension. It will be termed as a solution. Clear? Then the next one, the particles of suspension can be seen by the naked eye. So in that example of dissolving sand with water, when you will dissolve the sand with water, now what? Will you be able to see the particles of sand in that water? Definitely yes. So the solid particles of suspension can be seen by our naked eyes. Clear? Then next one, the particles of suspension scatter beam of light passing through it. Now to understand this, the question is a suspension a clear one? Like we have read in solution, the solution is a very clear one, right? Is a suspension clear? The answer is no. Suspension is not clear. Why? Because the solid particles are not going to dissolve in the solvent. Okay? So since the solid particles are not dissolving in the solvent, what will happen to the solid particle? It will remain suspended in that whole solvent. Right? So when you try to pass light through a suspension, what will happen? The solid particle will scatter the beam of light passing through suspension. I hope you have understood it. Then the next one, the solid particles settle down when a suspension is left undisturbed. Prepare a suspension in the morning. In the morning, what have you done? you have mixed sand to water, okay, and you just keep it for some time. What will happen? The sand particles will remain suspended in the solvent, that is water. After some time, what will happen? You just check it after 4 or 5 hours. What are you going to find? All the solute particle will settle down at the bottom, right? So that's why the fourth point, what is written, the solute particles settle down when a suspension is left undisturbed. So when a suspension is left undisturbed, then the solute particle will settle down. And what will happen? The solvent will become full clear. Now if there is only a solvent and if the solvent is clear, will you call it a solution? It will never be called a solution, right? Because the solution also contains a solute and a solvent. And in a solution, what happens? The solute particle dissolves thoroughly with the solvent, right now? So the suspension, is it stable or unstable? A suspension is unstable. Why is it unstable? Because the first reason of it being unstable is that the solute particle is not dissolving with the solvent. That's why it is unstable. Second one, once a suspension is made, then what happens? After some time, the solute particle will settle down. You will no longer get a suspension after the solute particle will settle down, right now? So that is the reason why the suspension is unstable. Clear? Here again I have written the example. Example of suspension is mixing sand in water. Clear? So, can you differentiate between a solution and a suspension? What did I discuss in the previous video? I discussed about solution. Now I have discussed about suspension. Can you differentiate out some differences between a solution and a suspension? What is the first difference? The first difference between a solution and a suspension is that a solution is a homogeneous mixture, whereas a suspension is a heterogeneous mixture. What is the second difference? Once a solute dissolves in a solution, then can you see the particles in a solution? The particles cannot be seen by our naked eye in a solution, whereas in suspension, the particles can be seen by our naked eye. What is the third difference between a solution and a suspension? A solution does not scatter a beam of light passing through it. What is, on the other hand, in a suspension, the particles will scatter beam of light passing through it. So this is the third difference. What is the fourth difference? A solution is stable, whereas a suspension is highly unstable. I hope you have understood the differences. So dear student, remember one thing again and again I am saying. If a solute is dissolving in a solvent, remember that it will become a solution. Right? It means you can never call it suspension. In suspension, the solute particles never dissolve in a solvent. Clear? If it is dissolving, then you cannot call it a suspension. I hope you have understood about suspension. Clear? And I hope you have understood about solution very well. Understood? So in the next video, I am going to discuss about a colloidal solution. Okay? So till then, stay safe. Thank you.